What is up, everybody? Welcome to the Wild Nutrition Podcast. I'm your host, Chris Heskett, and we have another episode out today. So, we're going to be talking a little bit about my next couple months preparing for hunting season, kind of how it relates to you. So, if you're not a hunter and you're listening, you're still going to be able to take away some advice here. But before we get into that, make sure no matter where you're listening, give it a like, subscribe, review, 5-star rating, whatever is appropriate for the channel you are listening on. So that's always appreciated. So make sure you go do that. Take 2 seconds, as that helps the show get pushed out for other people to find it. We're trying to get more reviews on here. And we are going to be having a guest come on soon. I know it's been a lot of solo episodes. I just haven't had the time for guests, but one of my buddies reached out to me that I reached out about a year ago to have him on, and he's finally ready. He's a little bit shy to get on podcast. So I'm not sure if he's done any other ones, but he's going to be on, and I think that one's going to be really good. He has a lot of good information. So with that being said, we're going to talk about, and I kind of want to change up the way I'm doing these podcasts instead of just like information, of a little bit of storytelling. So I'm going to try and do that here. I might fumble a little bit, but we're going to get into it. And the reason I'm bringing this up and preparing for things is we always need to kind of do that a little bit. We always need to have a plan for success. Otherwise, we're just kind of like shot in the dark, throwing shit at the wall and hoping something sticks. We want some sort of plan. So when it comes to hunting, years ago, we went black bear hunting, and I try to stay in shape for hunting. I do things to be in shape. But years ago, if you listen to the podcast from the beginning, you know the story. But when we went black bear hunting, go up to upstate PA, and at this hunting cabin, they haven't seen bears for years. There's mostly more like go up and hang out with buddies. But we actually saw a bear. So it's like, how funny would it be if that bear was just in that field over? Holy shit, that's a bear. So, and by the way, those of you who are like, why the fuck are you hunting bears? Aren't they endangered? There's plenty of bears in Pennsylvania. To maintain the population, just so you know, about 25% need to be harvested each year, and that maintains the population level. So Pennsylvania has a very, very healthy black bear population. And you do eat black bear. If you didn't know, apparently it's very good. It's one of my wife's favorite. I haven't had the chance to try it yet. So anyways, we saw this bear, and it's on private land. It's literally in the middle of an ag field. And it would be like shooting across this like very illegal shot from the road of where we saw it. So I pull up I had on X at the time. So I pull that up. I'm like, there's a property owner. Why don't we just go knock on the door? Worst thing they're going to say is get off my property, right? Like we're not going to get shot over there. It's wide open in the public. So worst case scenario is they're going to tell us to fuck off. That's fine. Okay. No worries. We'll leave the bear. So we go over there and we're asking for permission. They're sort of kind of like, and we're kind of like getting them to finally say yes. And basically, but before we could do anything, they say yes, but we could only take a shot from kind of like off their property. Like you can shoot on our property, but you can't shoot from our property. Like probably not going to happen. As they're telling us that, we just hear like 3 shots go off, and that bear goes running. Apparently, like the neighbors also saw it, and then they decided to take a shot. So we kind of see where the bear runs up the mountain, and on the backside of this mountain is game lands, public land. Anybody can hunt if you're not familiar. So wide open for hunting. So we're like, well, they're not seeing blood here. We saw that bear run up. Why don't we try to come up the other side and see if we can kind of like cut off that bear and get a shot from it there? So we drive up, and it is straight up the mountain, like not meandering, not a hiking trail with switchbacks. It is straight fucking up an Appalachian mountain in the fall. So as we're going, we're like knee deep in leaves. Like it is rough. If it's not knee deep, it's shin deep in leaves going straight up the mountain. And so we're in, this is mid-November. Bear season for Pennsylvania is right before Thanksgiving. So it's the weekend before Thanksgiving. So we are freaking rifle season, at least, for bear. So we are in winter clothing in upstate PA in the mountains. So it's usually cold. We're going straight up. So we're stripping down. I'm down to my base layers. Basically, I am sweating. It's getting so hot just going up. And so as we're going up, the first couple of people, a few hunters, they didn't even attempt. Then couple like 100, 200 yards in, two more like fall off. They're like, fuck this, we're not doing it. And then I think another one eventually drops off, but me and another guy are like pushing up and he's struggling. I mean, it's hard. I'm stripping layers. I'm out of breath, but I'm getting to this. I came up here to hunt bear. Like I'm hunting this bear. We look back and like the three other guys with us are way down below. Like he's like, maybe we should wait. I'm like, well, they're there. And my cousin-in-law looks at me once he catches up because he was the one. His family is the one who has the hunting cabin and invited me up at the time. He's like, what's the youngest you've heard of someone having a heart attack? Like, I don't know. He's like, well, it might be me because he is not in shape. And so the other concern then became, okay, great. Even if we see this bear, who can take a shot? Like I was the only one, and even I'm like borderline, but I'm the only one who could hold a steady shot. Everyone else is wiped out. They could not hold a steady rifle. So they are climbing up as like, even if we see the black bear, we can't take the shot. Eventually we do take it all the way up. We get to the top of the mountain. There's this rock outcropping. We all get up and we're like, if the bear runs up, it's going to be Swiss cheese because there's going to be 5 rifles pointing at it. But ended up not seeing anything. Like we hiked up, got to the top of the mountain, saw nothing. It was a beautiful view. I still have a photo of it, but nothing. So then we hiked down, and it was very steep. Like we were like propped up. Like, okay, if we get this bear, this thing's going to tumble down. It's going to be a pain in the ass to get out. Like, well, it is what it is. So ended up not seeing the bear, hiked back down. They were exhausted. One guy like fell asleep on top of the mountain. Like that's how exhausted he was. So that story is that kind of like almost not really a failure, but that didn't work out. But it was a learning experience of, hey, we need to be in shape. Like I need to be in even better shape in case something like this happens. And then the past couple of years, and I've talked about this over the past couple of years of the podcast, is for archery training. I've had a couple mess ups where it was a situation I didn't expect. I've had the bow bounce off my knee because I practice under ideal conditions, not realistic conditions, and where I usually place my feet and where that deer is probably going to come out because, oh, well, when I'm shooting, I'm in a kind of uncomfortable sitting position so I'll just do that. But when I'm waiting for the deer, I'm generally in a more comfortable sitting position because you're sitting there for a minimum of 2 hours for an evening hunt, which a morning hunt's about an hour. So you're in a less ideal position. So switching over now to the archery stories, I've had a couple things where the bow, my sight was off. So when I went out this couple weeks ago, I'm behind on training for archery, but I realized my sight was way off, which is why I definitely missed. So I'm taking out targets to the other property I hunt on and make sure that I can always sight in when I drive out there and then sight in when I get back. Because I missed some shots that should be easy shots, like 30-yard shots and 20-yard shots that I practice literally all year. And they're super easy. Like they're very intuitive. And that's why am I missing these shots? Like 40 yards I could see, but 30, 20, 30, there shouldn't be misses, especially like misses and no blood whatsoever. So what I've taken is learning from those situations. What do I need to apply? Where do I need to take my archery training? And that is practicing more in the stand, practicing holds, practicing these other things, of which is more realistic, because I've had a buck. So last year, the same buck I'm probably chasing, because he made it through. I haven't seen pictures of him yet, but he made it through the winter. So the buck I missed at 30 yards, beautiful buck for archery, but again, 30-yard shot. I think it was 28, and it's easy shot for me. It was a complete mess. It went right under him. I saw the arrow. I was like, I don't like the way that went. But I also initially missed him because of the setup in the blind. He came in at like 10 yards, and he was right in front of me. I couldn't get the shot off because my bow caught onto the blind, because I was sitting too low, because I went with a more comfortable chair rather than the chair designed for archery. That was, making a game time decision without practicing it, of we're going to do this will be more comfortable, and crap, we can't actually, like, you can look out, but you can't actually shoot. So what ended up happening is, as I tried to aim, because it's up on a little bit of ridge, the blind, so I had to aim down. Well, when I went to aim down, for the arrow to go outside the blind, I had to I couldn't have the stabilizer. So in front of my bow, if you're unfamiliar, there's a stabilizer. It helps you stabilize the bow for a more accurate shot. So that was catching onto the blind, and it was stuck. So I couldn't necessarily lean back because I would fall off the chair, and I couldn't go forward because it was caught on the bow. So I was just stuck at full draw, and like, I can't shoot. So the buck ended up getting away, but he kind of circled around and came in at 28. I was like, fuck, I have another shot. Like, I can make this. This shot is a no-brainer, completely missed. So those are things I'm practicing this year, and taking from what I learned with a lot of those mistakes that are like fully ingrained in my brain. And I'm going to then apply that this year. So what am I doing this year? First of all, starting, in July, which is next week, when this podcast episode comes out, it's going to be, I'm doing like cardio twice a week, but it's going to be more frequently, specifically rucking workouts. So what rucking is, and I haven't built a site yet. If you check back in a couple weeks, it'll be down below. And then future podcasts, there'll be a link for a free rucking guide, hint, hint, down below. It's also going to be in the links in bio. So if you're not following me and you're waiting for it to come out, I'm going to post it to my social media profiles in the near future. But with that being said, rucking is weighted walking. You need a weight vest, you need a backpack. And the reason it's really beneficial is it's not going to beat you up like running will. So you're thinking like, well, if you're a hunter, Cam Hanes runs, he does this to get in shape. So when we run, the impact it has on our body is 7 times your body weight. So if you weigh 100 pounds, that's 700 pounds of force. If you weigh 200 pounds, that's 1,400 pounds of force with every single step. So you can see how the volume of that can really add up. Versus if I do rucking, it's 3 times body weight. So if I weigh 200 and add a 50-pound vest, just doing this for easy math, that's 250. So times 3, that's going to be what? 750? Yeah. So 750 pounds versus 1,400. So you can, to get the same impact volume, which is what beats up your joints, you'd have to go twice the distance that you'd run. So you'd have to, instead of running a mile, you'd have to get the same impact, you would do 2 miles of rucking. If you do a 3-mile run, you'd have to walk 6 miles to get the same impact of running. But you can get a very similar to lower intensity cardio. You can get a similar low intensity cardio benefit from rucking, similar to like jogging. So the goal is to work more zone 2 cardio, which is 60 to 70%, more like 65 to 70, but 60 to 70% of your max heart rate. You're going to work that zone. And in that zone, you're using primarily fat as fuel. then you're saving all your carbs you're stored as glycogen in your muscles for your actual workouts, your weight training workouts, any hit workouts, sprint workouts, etc. You're saving it for that, so you can hit those harder and get more benefits from those. You are not beating up and reducing your recovery, so those workouts aren't taking away from the other workouts. So there's a lot of benefits that go into rucking. It also is going to help strengthen some of your joints. So it helps improve your cardio. It helps improve your upper back strength, your hip strength, your ankle strength. It helps improve these because you're walking around with weight. You burn more calories than just walking. So if you're like, well, I walk, you're not going to get the same heart rate zones and just adding that weight fast. So we don't want to go immediately into like super heavy. So I do 40 pounds, but I've been doing 40 pounds for a long time. You want to start 10 to 15% of your body weight and work your way up to 40 to 50 pounds. And the reason I use 40 and not 50 is I have a 40-pound weight vest and it's very convenient. But we don't go above 50 until we start to get close to hunting season. So if you're just doing this for general health, you're like, Chris, I don't work out whatsoever. There's no reason for you to ever go above 50 pounds. The military has done research on this, and the risk of injury starts to go parabolic after 50 pounds of weight. So that means is, that curve, it looks almost like a skate ramp going straight up. So it's not just like a steady, slow climb up in risk of injury. It's like slightly, and then skyrockets after that 50-pound mark. And that's kind of because if you think of humans are very good at carrying things. Like no other species on the planet is really good at carrying heavy things, but humans aren't going to carry 50 pounds for a very long distance in general. So if you think about how we would have carried things in the past and kind of how our bodies are structured, probably that 50-pound limit was about what, as a hunter-gatherer, you were going to be able to carry. Like if you got two big hindquarters of an animal, but you're probably in a party of 8 or more people to kind of split up that animal. So you might have just one hindquarter. So chances are you're carrying somewhere between 20 and 40 pounds and not 50 plus pounds. Occasionally you would, but more often than not, you're probably carrying 50 and under pounds. Same thing with like moms and kids. You're probably carrying up to 30, maybe 40 pounds. And then that kids kind of have to walk on their own, especially as if you think of a hunter-gatherer society. By the time a kid is 40, 50 pounds, probably another kid's been born, and you're probably carrying them like, hey, you have to walk on your own. So our bodies are kind of built to about that limit. And not that you can't go above that limit, but the risk for injury starts to skyrocket. So unless we need to, why put the extra risk? Because what we can do instead of going heavier is we can try to walk faster. Like instead of walking at 2 miles an hour, we can go 2.4 miles an hour or 2.8 or 3.1 miles an hour. We can try to speed up rather than increasing weight to a point once you're like running, obviously, like then we're running, we're not walking. But chances are you're going to always be in zone 2 at a certain speed. So for me, I know it's like 3.2 miles an hour with a 40-pound weight vest on the treadmill. I'm in zone 2. And that's treadmill. If I'm outside, it's actually slightly lower speed to be at that heart rate zone. So we want to work on our cardio. That's going to help improve our cardio for getting into position. So with that black bear hunt of actually getting into position, being able to get up quickly and not being, left behind, not being able to make a possible opportunity, be able to get up the mountain. But also once you're there, being able to bring your heart rate down quickly to have a steady shot, because that was the other concern of nobody was going to be able to bring their heart rate down quickly. Because if that bear appeared, by the time we actually got up there, it would have been that bear is there, quickly get on the tree, stabilize your gun and shoot. It wasn't going to be we have like 10 minutes before it's going to walk by. No, it's going to be like, hey, that's it over there. we need to take the shot now, it's probably going to wind us, and probably winded us way before or hurt us because they were not quiet getting up there. If you need, like, if you are going elk hunting or like bear hunting, like, like you're going to have to carry a lot of weight, you can go heavier. You can push 60, 70, 80, 90 pounds on a pack, but you might do that last month to really prepare your body. Like, you might work up to that for, 40, 50 pounds and kind of maintain that. And then so elk hunting is in September, say late July, first week of August, you start to bump up in weight so that you are ready. Your body has felt like what walking with this weight really feels like. And so then you're ready once you're up on the mountain. Like, if you are successful, then you have no problem carrying it out, because harvesting, like getting the animal down is one thing, but getting all that meat out is a whole nother question. Like, congrats, you got it. Now, how are you going to get hundreds of pounds of meat off? But even if you're just hunting whitetail, like just dragging that deer out of the woods can be very difficult, especially with a larger buck. But even like you get in a bad location, like dragging a doe out can be tricky. I know, like for us, there's a lot of down trees, and there's all these like berms that are built up with a whole bunch of raspberry bushes and things. So to pull it up and not get torn up, it can be very challenging. And then it's like, okay, now, like last year, the fields were really muddy, so I couldn't just bring our well, it's actually like a riding lawnmower with this attachment on the back that we use, but you couldn't just bring in the ATV or anything. You could, but you would ruin the farmer's fields, trying not to piss off the farmer. So it's like drag it over the field because it's too muddy to drive down and then get it. So could you do it out of shape? Sure. You're going to be fucking exhausted. Could you do it in shape? Yeah, I was still tired. It was still hard to do, but it's doable. It wasn't impossible. It's just like, oh God, this is kind of challenging. And I got a pump in my hamstrings and my calves now. So that's where the training for rucking comes. And you want to start now. Like, we have time now to start going into it. But if you're just like, I want to be outside, I'm just doing this for general health, Chris, I like being outside, I don't want to be trapped in the gym, do the rucking stuff. Like, okay, well, running beats you up, maybe, or you're not ready to start running. Walking is not enough intensity. You don't want to be stuck in a gym. So what's the solution? Well, we can always take weights outside, but might not be feasible, might not be possible, but we can ruck. We can throw a weight vest on. We can throw a backpack on with some weights in there, or just heavy books. Like, getting up to 20 pounds in a backpack is like a handful of cookbooks. Like, it's not hard to do. You put your backpack on the scale. Backpack's already going to have like a pound or two of weight, and just throw those in. Just make sure like it's a decent quality backpack, not like a kid's backpack, which is designed for like way less weight. Like, if you have a kindergarten backpack, like, it's probably not going to fit you. Ideally, a pack that's going to have the support around your waist, or at least support around your chest, and not just the straps. But if it's just the straps, it is what it is. We have one like that. It is what it is. You can always upgrade in the future if you really like it. You can then walk around your neighborhood. You can do walking trails. You can go hiking with it. Just don't do too much hiking right off the bat, or go lower weight, because if you do too much, your joints are going to hate you the next day or that day. So do be careful. And with hiking, I do recommend, if you're starting to go heavier and there's some hills and stuff, especially if it rained out and it's a little bit muddy. So let's say over 20, 25 pounds for women, 30 pounds for men. If you have more than that or more, I would recommend trekking poles so you don't fall. So can you do it without? Yes. Have I done it yet without? Yes. Those downhills are a little treacherous. So if it's a flat area, you don't necessarily need them. But if there's hills and you know you're going to have to go downhill, it's a little treacherous with all that weight on your pack. The trekking poles definitely help you just stabilize and everything. And once you start going, if you're like, definitely going to want to push heavier, you're going to need them if you're doing hiking that has elevation gains. So if you're just walking flat area, you don't need it. Like my neighborhood, don't need it. If we do one hike down at like the White Clay Creek Preserve, it's along a riverbed. Like there's one area where there's a little bit of a hill, and that's a little treacherous, but the rest of the area is totally flat. Don't need it. Some of the others where it's hilly around here, or if you're in the mountains, definitely get the trekking poles before you do it. Like it gets a little treacherous. And you don't want to fall down a rock, break a tailbone because you added weight, bust open your knee. Like we don't want injury. So just caveat there. And if you're like, well, I'm not there, but I would recommend it for anyone doing rucking and you have elevation gain. But I know some of you are just starting out. So like, if you don't have trekking poles, like that's kind of where you're like definitely going to need them. You might need them before if you're a smaller person and 20 pounds is more significant of your body weight, or if you're a larger person, you might need it a little bit later, but that's kind of the range I'm like guessing you're probably going to need it. When it comes to doing the archery stuff, practicing shots. So I'm going to practice in the stand where deer have come out, where I've taken shots, where I've missed shots, where I know that generally this is where I expect them to be. This is where they've been on camera. So these are the shots I'm most likely going to make. And these are some maybe shots that potentially I might make. That's going to be what I practice. So I know the exact position I need to be in and do a checklist if that happens. When I go out to Gettysburg, that other properties, same thing. I do that. Here's generally where they have been and what shots I need to practice. And here's the shots that potentially I might need to practice. So it's just practicing those situations, doing holds, making sure I'm avoiding different things, practicing that. Like you might put obstacles or stuff and might need to shoot over those obstacles with your regular archery training. So I know Remy warns like I just take a bag and put like branches or not like a trash can and put branches and stuff in it. Like you have to shoot through the branches because that's his situation. So look at your situation. I'm shooting from stands generally or a blind. So I'm going to practice in those situations of we're not shooting through a ton of branches, but we are shooting through some. Like here's the shot, here's the shot. So we need to practice those things. And you need to know what position you need to be in to be successful. Like if I do this, it bounces off my knee, I miss the shot. Okay, that's a problem. Glad we practiced that. I need to change my positioning on the chair or the stand so that that doesn't happen if this opportunity presents itself. So it's just always practicing, preparing for the situation. So when that moment happens, you are successful. And so that's what I'll be doing. And then holding too, like pulling back the bow, and I'll set a timer like 30 seconds, a minute, hold a shot, especially like I'll do this up in the stands of holding a shot, holding shot, holding shot. And then when that timer goes off, letting loose an arrow. And I'll do that. It's like midday because I'm trying not to like spook the deer when I want them to be there. So it's midday, buggy in August. Pull back, hold it. It's hot out. I'm sweating, sweat's dripping down my eyes. So it's like everything that kind of could go wrong, every annoying thing other than it being cold. Like I can't make it cold and have my muscles cold. I'm hot, but it's buggy. There's bugs landing on your face. You're sweating. Your sweat might be getting in your eye, and it's holding that shot and letting it go, and then seeing what happens. Like, hey, like that was low, that was high, that missed, that was spot on. Let's repeat. And doing that so that, again, when that opportunity shows up and you got that adrenaline rush, you know what to do. You can check off all the boxes, hold steady, get your breathing under control, and fire that arrow. So I had multiple mistakes last year. I had 2 big buck missed opportunities that I'm going to be addressing this year and making sure that that's dialed in. If you're not a hunter, how does this archery stuff help you? It's going to be about preparing for situations that most likely will arise. So what I find a lot of people do, this is the opposite. So what I don't want to do in the stand is practice a bunch of shots and waste a bunch of energy and time doing shots that will never happen. So in August, trying to get up in the stand, setting out the target into realistic hunting situations, and practicing that, and not practicing as much of just the flat shots, even though I still will, but not practicing shots that low chance of ever happening. Like, we've never seen deer come out of here. They generally do not come out of here. So why am I going to waste my time doing this shot? They've been hunting here for years. This shot's too far. I'm not going to shoot that far. So why would I practice in the stand of shooting that far? Like, say it's let's practice 60 yards in the stand. My limit's 50, and this year it might be 40 with the way that I'm shooting and everything. I might be pulling it in this year to 10 yards. It might be 45, but generally my cutoff is 50 yards. So why would I take a shot in the stand right before the season? I should be dialing in the actual hunting situations and getting used to those shots. Why would I spend energy doing these shots that I'm not going to make? Now, if it makes me a better archer, more accurate, great, but I should have been doing that earlier on. Like longer range shots, like 60 plus yards, I start to take in July. Once I know the sights are dialed in, I'm feeling comfortable at the hunting ranges, I start to push back. So because if I can be accurate at 30, if I can be accurate at 60, then I know that even though I was accurate at 30, I'm going to be very accurate at 30 because I'm hitting shots at 60 and the error rate is so much greater. Like one slight movement and you're going to see that on the target. So it really dials you in versus 30 yards or 20 yards. So I do that beforehand so that by the time I get to August, then it's actual hunting practice. September, again, actual hunting practice. I'm doing those things. We start here mid-September with deer season. I don't always hunt it because it's sometimes very hot, and an evening hunt just probably wouldn't be good. But I do practice a lot of those situations so that I'm ready. And it's just learning. So how this applies to you, a lot of people will do the whataboutisms. Or what if X with their diet and nutrition? What if that? When's the last time that happened? Well, it hasn't. Or, well, it happens like once a year. In January? Well, we're in July. Okay, so why are you worrying about that now? Or what's the likelihood of that happening? Just because I could win the lottery tomorrow. Chances are I won't. But I could. That doesn't mean I'm going to spend my money like I have won the lottery. Like I'm not going to go and buy 20 acres because I could win the lottery. No, but I have to actually do that. That has to actually happen first. With hunting, like a lot of the situations, they've happened. I know them. I was guessing in the past. Now each year I have more and more information. What about your things? Your things with nutrition and fitness, like, well, what if a kid gets sick? Okay, that happens. Maybe you should prepare for that. Like, that happens. So let's plan for what about if a kid gets sick? Should we keep some like easy foods on hand? Some cans of soup, some other thing. Like you probably already have cans of soup. So maybe we make some easy meals to keep on hand, some frozen meals, some canned stuff, shelf stable stuff, so that if that happens, you don't have to worry about meal prep if you're tired and you're up all night. Like it's just easy. What about if X? Likelihood of that happening? Well, very little. Could it happen? Yeah. So in my situation, could a deer walk out from an area that chances are we've never seen them do that in daylight? Yeah, it could happen. But chances are that because I practice all these other situations, I'm probably going to be okay with that. Or I might wait. I might be like, oh, hey, that's not worth it. Or, hey, like, let's see if they're walking front. So if you have a situation like, well, what if work makes me travel? Have they? No. Okay. So, well, they've talked about it. Well, they haven't done anything yet. So there's no reason to worry about that. And we'll cross that bridge when we come to it. And we're probably going to be working on figuring out how to eat well when going out to eat, weekends, other things that you can then apply to that. Like we can take that other information we've learned, like taking other shots I practice, and take that information and apply it to that possible situation if that occurs. And if it doesn't, then why would we waste time worrying and planning for something that isn't going to happen? What about vacations? Well, vacations happen. Maybe we should relax. Maybe we need to be active. We'll cross that bridge when we come to it. So that's how to apply this information to you of we'll take this information we've learned about and we're going to apply it to a situation if it's relevant. And if it's not relevant, then if it happens, we will take what we've learned so far and apply it there. Okay, that's going to be it today, guys. So thanks for tuning in. If you like this episode, please share it to social media, tell your friends about, rate the show. Take 2 seconds. If anything, just take 2 seconds, rate the show. Down below in the show notes will be links. Right now, I don't have the rucking program ready to go. If you want it, I have the PDF ready to go. I just don't have like a link where you can go and sign up. So what you can do is if you want that, send me a message on social media. Instagram is going to be the best bet because those notifications pop through the best. Facebook and TikTok are okay, but go Instagram at Coach Chris Heskett. Send me a message there. I will just ask for the rucking program. And I'll send over the PDF to you. So that is it for today. Please take a second, rate the show, and I will see you guys next week.